we are going to look at factoring trinomials with a equal to 1. If there is no GCF, then we may be able to apply another type of factoring. We call this unfoil. To see how this method works, let's examine the process of multiplying two binomials. So if we were asked to multiply x plus 3 times the quantity x plus 5, if you FOIL, first outside, inside, last, we know the first term, x times x, gives us x squared. The outer and inner terms, x times 5 is 5x, and then 3 times x is 3x. And then the last term, 3 times 5, is positive 15. So those are the four terms we end up with if you FOIL x plus 3 times x plus 5. Now, combining like terms, those outer inner terms, and this is essential to understand, those outer and inner terms end up being able to be combined to get 8x. So our final answer here is x squared plus 8x plus 15. So if you look at each term individually here in our final answer, the x squared comes from multiplying the first terms, x times x. The 15 came from multiplying the last terms, 3 times 5. The 8x comes from adding 5 and 3 together. So 5x plus 3x gives us 8x. Do the second one, x minus 2 times x plus 6, and see how that works. Okay, so on that one, your first term, x squared, comes from x times x, and then the positive 4x came from adding 6x and negative 2x. And notice that that came from the outer and inner terms. So 6 times x is 6x, and then negative 2 times x is minus 2x. So that middle term came from adding a 6 and a negative 2. Notice that the minus 12 at the end, that comes from multiplying negative 2 times 6. So the question is, to factor 1x squared plus bx plus c. And up here in the top here, when I say a equals 1, this is what we're talking about here. The coefficient in front of x squared is a 1. This method will work. So in order to factor that expression, we have to find two numbers whose what? So think about, where did the 15 here come from? It came from multiplying 5 times 3. So it came from finding factors of 15 that also added to 8x, or just 8. In the last one, we found two factors that multiplied to negative 12 and added to positive 4. So negative 2 times 6 is negative 12, and then negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. So we have to find two numbers whose product is c, so they multiply to the last number, and whose sum is b, and they add to b. So looking at a few examples here, if we want to factor x squared minus 3x minus 10, the first thing we should always remember to try to look for is a GCF, a greatest common factor. This doesn't have one because you can't divide every term by the same number or variable. There's only an x in the first two terms. There's not an x with the 10. So if we apply the process, let's find the factors of c. So what do we multiply to get negative 10? So if you list out those factors, so negative 1 times 10, opposite signs, 1 negative 10, and then using the 2's and the 5's. In order to multiply to negative 10, they have to be opposite signs. So these are the possibilities for integers when you multiply to get negative 10 as an answer. So now what we look for, we have the product is C. Now we need to find the sum is B. Well, B here is negative 3. So do any of those pairs of factors add up to negative 3? Well, we can see that 2 plus negative 5 will give you negative 3. So these are the factors that would work, 2 and negative 5. Okay, so to write our factored form, go back to the first term now. How did we get the x squared? So how do we get x squared here? You have to multiply x times x. Okay, so in the first part of the parentheses, go an x and an x. And then your other two numbers were positive 2 and negative 5. So one of them has a plus 2 with it, the other one has the minus 5. And you can see that if you were to FOIL that out, you should get what you started with. So x times x is x squared, and then we have a minus 5x plus 2x will give you negative 3x for the middle term, and then 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Okay, so if you go through and try the rest of them doing the same process, so find the factors of C and make sure it's in standard form first, meaning 1x squared plus bx plus c for our cases here. Okay, so make sure they are all in standard form, but you should always go through that process first to make sure. Okay, so in the next one you're going to want to find what multiplies to 24 that adds to get positive 11. The next one down, what multiplies to positive 18 and gives you negative 9 when you add them together. So those are the things you want to think about. Okay, so I'm going to show the answers just to keep this video shorter, and you can go through and check your answers. And then on the very last one, this one, notice that there is nothing that multiplies to 4 and adds to 7. So the best we could do is 1 and 4 gives us 5. 2 and 2 will add to positive 4. And then the negatives, they don't add to positive 7 either. So what we do there is we call that polynomial prime, meaning that we can't factor it over the real numbers. So that's like saying, if I gave you the number 17, what are the factors of 17? Well, the only things you can multiply to get 17 are the 1 and 17. So that's what we call 17 is a prime number. Well, this is how you get a prime polynomial. It means you can't factor it over the real numbers. So moving on to that second page. Okay, these are really just practice questions. So what I want you to do is pause the video, and I'll put the answers up for that for these examples here. And these are just practice, so you can check your answers. Okay, you'll notice that the second one there, 3 is a GCF. Okay, so that's how you factor trinomials with a equal to 1.